Venice, a magnificent city built on water. But how can a city be built on water? How has it stood for 1,000 years? What happened when Napoleon arrived? Is Venice really sinking? This is the complete history of Venice, from refugees fleeing barbarians to becoming the greatest trading republic in history. Let's begin. 400 CE, the Roman Empire collapses. Barbarian tribes sweep through Italy. Romans flee to the Venetian lagoon, a swamp that nobody wanted. They drove wooden pilings into the mud and built houses on the water. Thus, Venice was born from fear. AD 500, the refugees settled down and learnt to live on the water. Wooden piles driven deep into the mud support their houses. Bridges connect the islands. It is quite a challenging task. Every building and street requires great engineering expertise. But the lagoon protects them. Barbarian horsemen cannot reach here. The need for protection led them to build something unprecedented, a city on water. 600 CE, Venice is officially part of the Byzantine Empire. Constantinople is the capital, and the city has sworn allegiance to the emperor. The growing city is shaped by Byzantine art, architecture, and Christianity. The lagoon communities remain scattered, however, and there is no central authority. Venetian ships carried salt, fish, and glass to the mainland in exchange for grain and other goods. The people living in the lagoon began to transition from refugees to merchants. 697 CE, the lagoon communities decide that they need a leader. They elect Paoluccio Anafesto as the first doge. The word doge comes from the Latin dux, meaning leader. This marked the beginning of the Venetian Republic, a system that would last for over 1,000 years. It was a democracy of the wealthy and an oligarchy governed by elections. It was unique in medieval Europe. 828 CE, Venetian merchants pulled off one of the boldest heists in history. They traveled to Alexandria in Egypt, yes, that Alexandria, and stole the body of Saint Mark, the evangelist, from its tomb. Legend has it that they hid the body under pork to avoid Muslim customs. Inspections. They then took it back to Venice. Saint Mark became the city's patron saint. The city began building St. Mark's Basilica to house his remains. It's propaganda, but it works. It works. Venice now has spiritual legitimacy. 900 CE, St. Mark's Basilica was built. Built in the Byzantine style, it features domes and mosaics, all of which are covered in gold. Venice flaunts itself. Look at us. We have a saint. We have a cathedral that rivals Constantinople. The basilica becomes a symbol of Venice, as does the winged lion of St. Mark. It is no longer just a refuge in the lagoon. It has become a power. 950 CE, Venice is growing wealthy. Its ships dominate trade in the Adriatic. The city controls the production of salt, an important commodity in the lagoons at that time. They trade with Byzantines, Muslim merchants, and anyone else who has goods to sell. Venetian merchants are pragmatic. Religion does not hinder trade. The Doge's palace is expanding. Aristocratic families are growing wealthy. Venice is no longer merely striving to survive. It is thriving. 1000 CE. Venice is gradually declaring its independence from Byzantium. While the Doge still recognizes the Byzantine emperor, Venice now makes its own decisions. Aristocratic families control everything through councils and elections. This is not democracy, though. The common people have no say. However, the system is stable and effective. Venice is poised for its golden age. The lagoon refugees have built something extraordinary. A city on water. A republic. A rising power. The greatest maritime empire of medieval Europe is about to emerge. 1095 CE, Pope Urban II proclaims the First Crusade. The Crusaders need ships. Venice has a large fleet and demands exorbitant prices, amassing wealth in the process. War is good for trade. Venice is on the verge of becoming the richest city in Europe. A golden age begins. 1204, the Fourth Crusade. The Crusaders must attack Egypt. However, Venice persuades them to attack Constantinople, the capital of the Christian Byzantine Empire. Why? Revenge. Profit. Power. The Crusaders plundered the city, and Venice took half the spoils. These included priceless treasures, such as the 4 bronze horses now found in St. Mark's Basilica. This, the greatest robbery in medieval history. 1250 CE, Venice has gained control of the Mediterranean, establishing colonies on Crete and Cyprus, as well as countless other islands. Trade routes connect the city to Constantinople, Alexandria, and the Holy Land. Spices from the east pass through Venice, establishing it as a key trading hub. The Doge's Palace is being expanded. Palaces line the Grand Canal. This is Venice at its zenith. It became the wealthiest city in Europe. 1348. Ships arrive from the Black Sea. There are rats on the ships, fleas on the rats, and the plague on the fleas. The Black Death devastates Venice. Perhaps a third of the population dies. The bodies are buried on the plague islands in the lagoon. The wealthy flee, and trade ceases. But Venice survives. It always survives. 1400 CE, Venice recovers. The plague has ended, and trade has resumed. The Renaissance begins. Venetian art flourishes with artists such as Titian, Tintoretto, and Bellini. The printing press arrives, and books are published. Venice becomes a cultural center. Not just merchants, but also artists, thinkers, and innovators flock there. The Republic flourishes once more. 1453, Constantinople falls to the Ottoman Turks. Venice's oldest ally has disappeared. The Ottomans are expanding their control over the eastern Mediterranean. Venice is facing its greatest threat yet. The Republic prepares for war. This is not about religion. It's about survival, trade routes, and power. 7 October 1571, the Battle of Lepanto. Venice leads the Christian coalition against the Ottoman fleet. 200 galleys clash in the greatest naval battle in history. By sunset, the Ottomans had been defeated, with 30,000 lives lost on both sides. Although Venice won the battle, it was a Pyrrhic victory, with heavy losses on both sides. The battle drove the Republic into bankruptcy and brought the Golden Age to an end. 1600 CE. The world is changing. Portugal, a powerful maritime nation, has discovered routes around Africa to India. Meanwhile, another maritime giant, Spain, is conquering the Americas. Trade is shifting towards the Atlantic. Venice is falling behind. The Ottoman wars are depleting its wealth. Although the Republic remains wealthy and beautiful, its maritime empire is lagging behind other nations. The decline has begun. 1700 CE. Venice is a shadow of its former self. However, it remains independent. It is still a republic. A republic. With its carnival, opera, and art, Venice becomes Europe's playground. It remains quite fashionable. Tourists come for pleasure, not trade. However, the threat of Napoleon is on the horizon. The 1,000-year-old republic has less than a century left. 12 May 1000, 797, Napoleon's army besieged Venice. The last doge, Ludovico Manin, managed to avoid war and abdicates. After 1,099 years, the Venetian Republic came to an end. It did not end in battle or victory, but by vote alone. The Great Council surrendered. Napoleon seized Venice's treasures, including the bronze horses at St. Mark's. 1,000 years come to an end in a single day. 1815. Following Napoleon's defeat, the weakened Republic of Venice fell under Austrian control. The city remained a part of the Habsburg Empire. There is no independence, no power. The Venetians, now merely a provincial city, are angry with the Austrians. But there was no republic to return to. They have lost it forever. 1866. Italy unites and emerges as a new power. Venice votes to join the new Kingdom of Italy, which it then does. At least they are free from Austrian rule. Venice is now just an Italian city. No more republic, no more empire. The glorious days are now part of history, but Venice becomes a major tourist destination. To this day, visitors continue to show intense interest in Venice as a tourist destination. 1915. 1945. The two world wars were disastrous for Venice. Austria-Hungary bombed the city during the First World War, causing considerable damage. Meanwhile, Italy completely occupied Venice during the Second World War. Despite all this destruction, Venice survived. The buildings remained standing. The canals continued to flow. Unlike many European cities that were destroyed by bombs, Venice emerged from this period intact. Although damaged, it still stands. November 1966. The worst flood disaster in Venice's history. Acqua Alta high water. The entire city was submerged. St. Mark's Square was flooded. Priceless works of art were damaged. The world took notice, but Venice is sinking. Subsidence, rising sea levels, and violent tides are to blame. The engineering marvel that has protected the city for 1,500 years is failing. 2003. Italy began building MOS, a system of mobile barriers designed to protect Venice from flooding. It's massive, expensive, and controversial. Will it work? Will it save Venice? Or is the city doomed no matter what? Construction takes decades. The Venetians wait. The floods keep coming. 2015. Every year, 20 million tourists visit Venice. What about the city's population? Compared to 1,950, when it was 175,000, it is now only 55,000. Venetians are leaving the city. Meanwhile, cruise ships constantly bring new tourists to the city. Airbnbs are now replacing residents' homes for tourists. Venice is turning into a theme park, a museum. It's no longer a living city. Is this survival, or is it a different kind of extinction? 2026. Venice, 1,500 years on water. A 1,000-year-old republic destroyed by Napoleon. A city that stole a saint and plundered Constantinople. Now, 20 million tourists. It is a city trying to protect itself with MOS barriers. The flood is still coming. Venetians are still leaving. Is Venice dying, or is it surviving as a living museum, its only means of survival? From refugees in the lagoon to the greatest maritime empire, how much longer will it last? Venice endures. It always has. But how much longer will it endure?